It's too weird. It's too weird. Start the show. Go, go, go.
Welcome to Cordkillers, our mission to report the intel from the front lines of the cord-cutting revolution so you, my friends, can watch the stuff you love when you want, where you want, on whatever damn device you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey man, I'm Brian Brushwood, and that was labeled, quite appropriately, Weird Simpsons VHS. It's a video with 1.5 million views on YouTube, and it's like a version of, it's like an artifact from an alternate reality where the Simpsons got even weirder than the Simpsons got. And I picked that because I discovered it this afternoon watching Pluto TV, where they have a channel called Most Viewed, I think. I'm probably wrong about that, but it just plays the most viewed recent episodes curated from YouTube. When that popped up and I clicked over and saw that I got to access the YouTube page super easy, which I thought was rather appropriate, Tom.
Now, you've heard me sing the praises of Pluto as and you've heard me even pronounce it right, as a lean-back experience that we don't see in the world of online video. And Ilya Pozin, Pluto TV co-founder and chief growth officer, was nice enough to drop by today to talk to us about it. How you doing?
Hey guys, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Dude, thank you so much for making it out here. So you are the chief growth officer, by which I mean I assume you radiate sunshine to facilitate photosynthesis to grow the company, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, I'm the water, the sun, everything.
So this afternoon, I gave a look for the first time in a while to Pluto TV, and to be totally honest, I was confused because I went to Pluto TV expecting for a short description of what Pluto TV is and an invitation for a 2-week trial and then to get a login for my preferences, and then finally 5 paywalls later, I'd actually get content. Instead, I went to Pluto.tv and instantly got what for all the world looked like a cable television setup, and it immediately started playing high-quality entertainment. I was watching Mystery Science Theater 3000. I scroll down a little bit. I'm looking at Inside Amy Schumer, and I see that Key and Peele is on next. Explain to me how it is that you guys are able to do something so fundamentally different. You're playing the game different from everybody else there. You're just like, go, content, curation, let's see it.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, for us, the way we look at it is the average American watches about like 4.5 hours of TV every single day, right? And the majority of that watching behavior is linear. It's what's on. And a small portion is time shifted and DVR'd. And, you know, we want to focus on that majority, the part that actually a lot of people aren't going after. So for us, we thought, why not curate the best content out there and line it up just like television? And just like you said, right when you turn it on, it's on. And you can flip to different channels based on different topics and genres and interests that you're into.
Yeah, well, and I guess I never thought this would be so easy to do or so possible, because I just assumed everything was embroiled with licensing rights and all that stuff. And meanwhile, I'm looking at, you got an I Love Lucy channel, you've got classic TV, television from the 70s, 80s, 90s. You got Dragon Ball Z. You've got you also have news. You guys got Bloomberg, which I assume is a live feed at all times.
It is. Yeah. I mean, look, when we first launched, we plugged into open APIs of platforms like YouTube and Vimeo and Dailymotion and others like that. And we wanted to pick the best content out there and line it up into this kind of channel experience with episodes and a guide and, in different categories. So we created over 100 channels of music, news, sports, comedy, entertainment, and more. And then since then, we started partnering with a lot of different amazing content owners. Like you mentioned, even the likes of Bloomberg TV, which we have their live television feed, all the way to library holders. Like we have a Mystery Science 3000 channel from our great partners at Shout Factory. And then we also have a partnership with Hulu. So with Hulu, we can curate some of their content into this kind of lean back viewing experience as well.
Now, I think people are starting to realize that the idea of being able to just turn something on and catch the middle of a show, the serendipity of seeing things you hadn't thought of, is something we're missing from a lot of these on-demand services. The more experience we get with the Netflix and the Hulus and the Amazons of the world, the more people start to realize, hey, that isn't silly. I actually kind of like that. How do you get over the difficulty of launching an app, right? In the old days of serendipity, like way back in the 70s, you turn on your TV and you just start flipping the channels. Whereas now with everything, it's not just with Pluto, you have to turn on to the right input, and then you have to turn on the app, and then you have to wait for the app to load. how do you overcome that impediment to what is, I think, your golden attractive feature, which is I turn it on and I just see what's on?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to build an app that's frankly available everywhere on every device to all people all across the world, right? So when we launched, we built an app for iOS, for Android, for the Amazon ecosystem, for Amazon Fire TV, Chromecast, and then of course the web. So that way, anywhere with an internet connection can access our content. And we looked at the whole landscape and we saw that when people know exactly what they want to watch, there's some amazing platforms out there like Netflix and Hulu and YouTube and the like. But when you don't know what you want to watch and you just want to be entertained, that's a big pain point, right? So when we built our app, our experience, we wanted to make it just like like what you just said. You just turn it on, no logins, no paywalls, nothing. It just flips right in. You could be even halfway through a show. We feel like people love that. That's been kind of engraved in our culture and the way we've lived for over 2 decades, right? That's the way we watch TV. So we thought that part was actually missing on the internet, and everyone went into this everything on demand, everything what you want, when you want, wherever you want. But there's something to just flipping on and it's just on and it works. Right?
Well, what occurred to me when I first saw this is that this is ideal for, and I don't mean this in a negative way at all, it's the perfect distracted viewing experience. My brother he does 3D modeling and animation, and he spends all day with some television on in the background noise. And there are certain shows, a lot of Netflix is appointment viewing. You want to sit down with your popcorn, turn off the lights, and watch all of Breaking Bad or whatever and give it your full attention. But there's other stuff you just want to be able to glance over and enjoy. This seems ideal, whether it's, for the news or for, curated YouTube stuff. Is that part of is that a conscious thing on your end, or did I just offend you by suggesting that?
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, I feel like people watch Pluto in a lot of different ways. It could be ambient, but I think a lot of people also, there's just some content, like you mentioned, news, that people are just, they're not going to DVR it, right? It's not going to be time shifted. It's something that people will flip on, but they're also leaning in and heavily paying attention to it. So I don't think it's just ambient background. Maybe that's a percentage of the experience, but I think a lot of it is just more pain-free, right? You're not there figuring out what to watch, hunting for it. If you're, I think the way we look at it is if you're lazy and you're bored, those two together, this is a perfect way to kind of be entertained. But
very well put.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, even if you're not that lazy, sometimes you're just paralyzed by choice. You start looking like, I don't know what I want to watch. Maybe I know I want to watch sci-fi, right? Or I want to watch comedy, but I just can't figure out which one of those. And Netflix, I think very wisely, has started automatically playing things if you hover over the episode long enough in some of their apps. And I think you've really nailed that thing where you can say, hey, here's a comedy channel, here's a sci-fi channel, here's a science channel, and even personality driven channels, so that you take away that paralyzation. You're unparalyzing people.
Yeah. I mean, and look, and we're building these kind of mini networks, right? I think if you look at our channels now, they look a lot like categories with playlists behind them, but that's also starting to evolve with us. And you could see we're starting to expand on some of our branding on our channels, and some of the things to come is you'll start to see interstitials and things like you're watching this channel and coming up next. And, the feel is going to really evolve to be a lot more like a TV network rather than just playlist. But I think what you mentioned is absolutely true. Sometimes you turn it on, you're like, you know what? I want some stand-up comedy, and we have a stand-up comedy channel for that. So,
can you share any of the, as much as you're comfortable sharing, the behind the scenes of how the curation happens? Do you have a team of experts who just watch a lot of TV and say that's good or bad, or?
Yeah. I mean, we have a whole about a third of our company are curators, and they actually work as a group. A lot of them are experts of their own areas. Like we have a former MMA fighter that programs our fight channel and our kickboxing channel. But a lot of the work is done as a team, and they look at the best content out there and they try to figure out what would make a really good episode. So it's not just lining up a bunch of clips in the right order, but it's what is that right 30-minute episode, 60-minute episode, and how does that actually work on the dial? And we pay attention to things like day parting, right? And what should come in the evening, what should come in the morning, what do you wake up with.
That's amazing. Yeah, I guess you guys have to track trends and see like, oh, well, around 3:30 when this demographic comes home from school, it seems like they really want to see this stuff that's now optimally available on this platform.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. And we can see that on every different time zone all the way across the world. We can see which videos make people drop off and maybe they don't like it, and which videos actually perform well, and kind of adjust our curation from that.
So much easier to cancel a show too when you don't have to deal with the people.
You don't even have to send them a letter. You're like, you're out.
Sorry, Fonz. Happy Days just isn't pulling it in on the 70s channel anymore.
Yeah.
So, and maybe you can't answer this, but are you guys planning to be in the SDK for the new Apple TV?
I can't answer it directly, but I can tell you that our goal is to be on every device and available to all people, right? So, and the living room is extremely important to us. So you'll likely see us on all the necessary living room devices for us to reach our audience.
Man, that's fantastic. Well, I don't know how much longer we have you. Did you have to run, or can you hang around for a primary target? Where do we come down on that, Tom?
If you've got time, I'd like to get your perspective. Ilya, can you hang around for just a minute more?
Yeah, sure.
Let's get into a primary target then, Bryce.
Yeah.
All right, folks. So last week, Amazon sent an email out to its marketplace sellers. Those are people who sell things through Amazon, and then Amazon often does the fulfillment for them, saying no new listings for Chromecast or Apple TV. Existing inventory will be removed October 29th. In their email, it said it's important that the streaming media players we sell interact well with Prime Video in order to avoid customer confusion. We had a developer email the Daily Tech News Show and point out that the Chromecast SDK requires Google Play services on Android. That means no Fire OS devices. So there's a sticking point for Amazon. None of their Fire tablets can cast to the Chromecast. And an Amazon rep told David in an email when he asked about this that they are planning to expand Amazon Video to the upcoming Apple TV 4th gen in the near future. So maybe when the new Apple TV comes out, Amazon will say, okay, we're going to start selling that one now. But the reason I wanted Ilya to hang around is he's coming at this industry from the other end, right? We just heard Pluto TV wants to be on every one of these devices. It seems like, Ilya, and obviously you're not going to pick sides. You want to keep Amazon happy, and Pluto TV is great on the Fire TV. But just from being in the industry, what kinds of things cause these sorts of disputes to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall you could just see the whole landscape heating up. Everything is just getting a lot more competitive, and I think there are signs everywhere about that. So, I mean, for us as an app developer, as an app that wants to be, as I mentioned, everywhere and available on all devices to all people, we're going to stick to that, and we want that lean back experience across literally the whole world and every platform.
Do you think this is a good sign then? I mean, and Brian and I could talk about the consumer side of it and what we think of it, but in a way, the fact that we're seeing it heating up and battling means that it's a legitimate marketplace, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we see it, right, from our perspective. It's not just early adopters anymore. Everyone is buying these devices. My parents are calling me, asking me how to use stuff, I see it like all across the world. So I think it used to be, it's almost like what's happening now in this landscape is kind of like early days of iPhone. Like at first, people that started buying that and downloading apps were just very much early adopters. But then it opened up to the whole world, and it just became part of everyone's everyday use. And I think the same thing right now we're starting to see. I think this fall is going to be really big for connected devices.
It's interesting. We spoke about this briefly and then cut off our conversation before the show because we wanted to save it for the show. But I went through sort of two waves of trying to process this. When I first read this story, it seemed like an astonishingly stupid move on Amazon's part to me, because even though I don't think it is anti-competitive, I think it could look to outsiders like they're unfairly limiting their market. They're using their marketplace to try to marginalize. And it's really Google that's more marginalized by this decision than Apple. Apple has their retail outlets. They have their healthy online sales, whereas Google, doesn't have a physical brick and mortar location that everyone goes to coast to coast. It looks petty, and it looks like they are trying to seal their doors to grow their own fireplace. However, on the flip side, I think this is the kind of move that strategically could be a calculated bet that they would make, because they want to be on the Apple TV. They want to be on all platforms. And as a consumer, I want them to be on that. Most of the media that I buy these days, I'm buying in the Amazon marketplace, and it drives me nuts when I could get it on my PS4, but if I get the new Apple TV, how good of an experience is it going to be? If I have it on the Chromecast, how good of an experience is it going to be? So if this is a tactical play that they want to make, just to sort of say like, hey man, we have leverage here too. You could drag your feet on letting us get access and make a quality app on your device, but we have some leverage and we can make it difficult for people to get at your device in our marketplace. I don't know. I see it on both sides. Tom, did you have a particular take that came to you?
Well, yeah, I don't want to keep Ilya any longer than we need to. So let's say goodbye there. Thank you, Ilya, for joining us. Really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Pluto.tv, folks. Thanks so much.
Co-founder and chief growth officer. Go try it out. Pluto.tv. They got apps for all, like you said, as many platforms as you can think of out there.
Awesome. All right. Take care, boss.
Take care.
All right. Now, Dish.
So, I mean, and the reason we went ahead and said goodbye there before I gave my side of it is that I don't think he can say much more because he's in relationships with a lot of these companies. But here's the thing. I don't know that Google gets hurt more by this than Apple. Yeah, Apple has high-profile retail outlets. Google has an online store. Google is available. Chromecast is available in Best Buys, in Fry's Electronics, at Walmart. What I think this equally hurts Apple and Google is what I'm saying, because Amazon is just such a huge retail presence. And Amazon hasn't done much like this since they started to not sell particular books, not pre-sell particular books, because they had a royalty dispute with a particular publisher, Hachette. And this is what Amazon does when they're in a dispute. Now, Amazon never said anything about their Hachette dispute. They just said that, yeah, pre-orders are not available for this particular publisher right now. But we all knew what was going on because there was a court case and Hachette was talking about it and authors were talking about it. Not that many people are willing to talk about this sort of thing. But I do think that what's going on here is Amazon's like, hey, we're a 500-pound gorilla. Google isn't playing nice with us because we split off Android. So we're going to use our leverage back against them. They're trying to use their leverage to keep our app not working well on their platform unless we play in their ballpark. So we're going to do the same thing. The Apple TV part of it is what puzzles me. Yes, Amazon isn't on the Apple TV because you have to get Apple to agree to be on that. But the week, the month that Apple announces, great, we're going to have an SDK, it's going to be open, anybody can make an app, is when Amazon kicks the Apple TV out of the store. That just doesn't make sense. Like, hey, Amazon, you got what you want. You can make your app for the Apple TV just the way you made your app for iOS, which they have, and it works great. So I wonder if it's a little bit of cover for them to say, Apple's winded down sales of those older Apple TVs anyway. Let's hold off, and then we can bring Apple TV in when the 4th gen comes out and look like a big PR move like, hey, we're welcoming them because they played along, and that puts extra pressure on Google. In the end, the only people that are losing is us because we get one less way to go and buy something. It doesn't help customers at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what the alternative to moves like this is, because if Amazon is not getting what they want, I mean, how would they? What would be the way that they could?
Well, look at the Kindle. I think I think Kindle was a perfect example of what you should do, which is they said hardware group, software group. You guys are separate, and the software group was like, we will put the Kindle app everywhere. You don't see them holding the Kindle app back from Android devices because there's some sort of Google Play thing. In fact, what they should be doing is holding it off of iOS devices, because Apple has that policy that says, oh, you can't have in-app purchases unless you share 30% with us. Instead, Amazon just cuts that off.
Yeah.
So what would make more sense to me is to say, well, our retail arm is going to continue to sell everything. We're certainly not going to promote it. We're not going to put it high on the page. We might get rid of pre-orders, pre-sales, and things like that. But not selling it at all seems like pretty heavy-handed tactic to me.
Yeah, and
they're selling Android TVs. That's the other thing. doesn't make as much of a splash for them to do that, I guess.
Well, and I'm trying to think of whether or not I perceive Amazon as being very graceful in their marketing, and I don't think they are. I think Apple is very nuanced in a lot of their things, and they have a way with words that they cast that spell over you to like, oh, that makes sense, that's reasonable. But this kludgy, clumsy statement of like, it's important that the streaming media players we sell interact well with Prime Video in order to avoid customer confusion. I mean, is anybody buying that? Is anybody like, oh yeah, no, that's
I was so confused when I bought the Google Chromecast.
It's just super heavy-handed, and I guess Amazon really is the Walmart of online retailer, and that's me. That's me as a content provider who's had to deal with them and selling through them. Yes, as a consumer, I love everything about Amazon, but as a seller, it's abysmal. They're constantly asking for ridiculous margins and stuff. Ugh, it's tough.
Well, and the other thing they do, as someone who has self-published books and sells them through the Kindle marketplace, they entice you with all of these cool deals and publications and promotions, which work great. We have friends like Andrew Main who've taken advantage of them, and they work great. But you can't have a public domain version of your content out there.
You can't give it away. You have to have. Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So the fact that I give away all my books in PDF form freely under a Creative Commons license, they're like, nope, you can't do that. And I'm just like, well, it's just not worth it to me then. And they have lots of exclusive, like, we'll promote your thing as long as you don't sell it in any other marketplace. And again, it's like, well, I want it to be widely available in Nook, in iBooks, in whatever, again, what people want, where they want. And Amazon, it seems to be having an internal struggle where the Kindle universe used to be like, let's just put it out there as many places as possible and Kindle will become the dominant way to read. And it worked. They're starting to get a little power hungry, it seems like. And
yeah.
I'm not sure if it's in their own best interest, frankly.
Yeah, I guess, but again, I don't know that I would expect less because subtlety just doesn't seem to be. Subtlety is not in Amazon's playbook. How about that? That's my take.
That's a fair point. Hey, folks, if you didn't hear already, and you should have got an email from Patreon about this, there was an intrusion on the Patreon systems. Their systems were attacked. Data was stolen, a large amount of data. There's been a data dump out there. And although they took very good encryption procedures with passwords, and although credit card information and payment information was not stolen, they are still recommending that you change your password on your Patreon account. So if you haven't done that yet, go ahead and do that. Your email address, if it hasn't already been leaked to the world in some other hack, now has been leaked through that hack. But the passwords are encrypted with bcrypt. They're salted and hashed. They did all of the best practices that security researchers usually recommend. But like so many other companies out there, they had an intrusion. Now, the downside of this is apparently a company named Detectify had notified them of the vulnerability that was used about 5 days before the hack happened, and they weren't able to or didn't get around to, or for whatever reason it wasn't patched after that notification. So there's a little bit of anger about that out there as well. But all of that is to say we are still using Patreon to fund the show, Brian.
Yeah, I don't see any need to. I mean, again, it's not like well, I don't know. It's not like they invited it or whatever. And hopefully nobody's ashamed of their secret support of Cordkillers and that now they've been outed in public as supporting us. And you know what? Maybe this is a good thing because one of the things that we were constantly nagging people about is that we are due to purge all of those bad credit cards. And there are people who love the show who are like, oh, I'm sure I'm paying. Oh, I feel real good. I'm paying a lot. And then they look and they're like, my credit card changed 2 months ago. I haven't paid anything for a while. So let's just make this our hygiene maintenance month where all of us pledge we're going to change our passwords. We're going to double check, make sure our credit card information is updated. And we got an email from somebody suggesting, why don't we encourage people to go ahead and switch over to PayPal? Because if you do, PayPal will let you know. It will send you a notification when your password or when your credit card is expired, reminding you to change it. And then that way you don't ever have to worry about it. It's all happens automatically.
Yeah. Belissa says PayPal wasn't available on Patreon when she first signed up right after we started Cordkillers. So some of you folks may not realize that you can use PayPal through Patreon. And that's another line of defense. You can use Facebook to log in as well. If you use Facebook to log into Patreon, you don't need to change your password because your password wasn't in the database. Your password was in the Facebook database. So again, this is going to make Patreon more secure. It is very unfortunate that it happened, but you know, it's unfortunate, and it's the day and age we live in. So patreon.com/Cordkillers is still the way we fund the show.
Shall we move forward, sir?
Yeah, signals intelligence is what we've got on deck. Let's do that.
Oh, I'm excited, Tom. This sounds like the wave of the future. A soft press
Brand new
release.
streaming services. Remember, Verizon bought Intel's OnQ? We were so excited. What is Verizon going to do? What are they going to come with? What kind of amazing streaming service are they going to do? And last week they launched Go 90 for iOS and Android. The name means go 90, like 90 degrees. You turn your mobile device to the side and watch video. So they've got various videos from traditional networks. They've got videos from multi-channel networks like Maker Studios. They say they've got things like The Daily Show and 30 for 30, right alongside things like HuffPost Live and Michelle Phan's beauty tips. Verizon Wireless subscribers get some exclusives. So if you're on Verizon, you're going to get a little extra content. They're also promising live sports, NCAA football and basketball, some international soccer. They say they're launching with 8,000 titles and more than 35 exclusive original series. 15 of the 30 most viewed network shows and 9 of the 15 most viewed web shows apparently are represented. There's a social network aspect. So, Brian, I was so excited to launch Go 90 and see that I could watch a show.
I was bummed because I don't have
the hottest videos on Go 90.
I was bummed because I don't have Verizon, and I assume it's a Verizon exclusive.
Yeah, not a Verizon exclusive, which is a good point. Verizon is saying everybody can have this. You will get a little extra content if you're a Verizon subscriber, but everybody can have it. But what I was saying, Brian, is when I launched this, I didn't see any of that stuff that they were talking about in their press release.
What are you talking about? What do you see?
I do see Top 5 Live, which is their original show that talks about the top 5 web videos that are available in Go 90. Then I see something from Smosh, which, okay, that's one of the top multi-channel networks. Something about Made Man Buns. Man Buns. I don't know. I don't see The Daily Show. When I search for The Daily Show, I don't get anything. Either those sorts of videos haven't showed up yet, or they're exclusive to Verizon subscribers or something. But really, this looks like a limited version of what's available from YouTube.
So, in other words, everything you would be able to just browse on even your phone, your mobile device's browser it's less of that and just in an app partnered with Verizon and Comcast, because those are two brands everybody loves.
Well, no, this is just Verizon. We haven't got to Comcast yet.
Oh, got it.
Comcast has their own version of this. It's free on the web.
Can't be worse than
iOS or Comcast X1 set-top box, and it has web videos from BuzzFeed, Maker, Vice, Vox. They don't have anything with major broadcasters, so even less available if you go to Watchable from Comcast.
So in other words, Watchable is just Go 90 with even fewer choices, and Go 90 is just the internet with even fewer choices.
I hate to say it because it sounds so negative, but it's virtually unwatchable.
I mean, we might be wrong. We might not understand that there's
the No Man Buns video is also unwatchable, as well as Go 90. It's the top video on both, obviously, because we've all been hearing about it all day long.
Must be.
Okay, this is first week. Maybe the Daily Show clips will come. Maybe the full videos of 30 for 30 will come still, and I just gotta hold on. But I am not impressed so far, and the interface, especially on Go 90, is kind of hard to browse around. I don't understand how to find things easily. It's not presenting anything I'm really interested in to watch, even though I gave it my preferences on types of content. Just not my thing, I guess.
Yeah, it just looks like it looks like a slightly updated interface that's a little more tiley, which I probably would have found more exciting 2 years ago. But again, I haven't used it. But if you're telling me that it was a miserable experience, then that's all I need to hear.
No, you should go check it out for yourself, because I could be wrong. I could be totally
wrong. In fact, actually, let's kick it out to the fans out there. Is there somebody out there who really dug this? And if so, sell us on it. Hit us up at cordkillers@gmail.com. I would love to hear the other perspective.
Because in all honesty, the watchable interface seemed better than the Go 90 interface to me. The Go 90 interface seemed a little buggy, and the TechCrunch article said that about it, and maybe they'll get better as well. Shall we gear up?
Yes, we shall, with
I think
gear.
we should. Let's do it. Because, folks, if you remember, we were talking about the leaked pictures of the new Chromecast, and last week, Google announced their new Chromecast, and they listened to Brian Brushwood and scrambled to make sure that the new Chromecast would not clutter up your HDMI ports. It's got a kind of a wobbly wire off the end of the little circle so that it actually is even less cluttery of your HDMI ports than the old Chromecast.
Yeah, this is a little segment we're going to call Brian Admits He Was Wrong About Everything, and all his fears were unfounded, and it turns out those Google folks, they know how to design elegant objects that work seamlessly and have reasons for it. It turns out that the reason for the giant circular interface was so that they could have better Wi-Fi antennas. Why?
Also,
because they heard Brian Brushwood crying about the Wi-Fi on his Fire TV stick.
I don't think you should say it wrong, Brian. I think you should declare victory.
Sure.
Make sure that Google did the right thing.
They went back retroactively and designed everything over the last year to exactly do that.
The HDMI end here has a magnet on it that clips it to the Chromecast. I'm not sure how I plug that into my HDMI port.
Well, I saw that from the picture, and I was like, well, that doesn't look like there's any room to plug it in to
so that doesn't
anything.
seem useful, but it's just a magnet, so you just undo it, and then it actually hangs off pretty easily.
Is the magnet
it's really small. Like I could use it as a monocle.
If the magnet is in the device part itself, then you could clip it theoretically to the television, right?
Yeah,
if there's
that's
any kind of
true,
metal
too.
back.
Yeah.
And then
That's
that would be a very elegant solution.
Yeah, and maybe this other steel part here is just so that you could store it away if you need to store it easier. I also got the Chromecast Audio, which is meant for speakers, and what that ended up being is a separate device with a mini jack, and they give you a little short mini jack cable to plug into speakers. So you can plug it into any existing home speaker, and then it works with any device on the network. So if you have multiple speakers in multiple rooms, suddenly you can basically DIY your own Sonos type system. It can mirror audio from Chrome or Android, supports multi-room sync. It is the same price as the new Chromecast.
So that's the part that really puzzled me is I love the fact that they added this, the ability to take, because Sonos is two things. Number one, it does appear to be high-end gear that sounds really good, or I guess it's three things. It's a fairly elegant interface, especially in a pre-Chromecast era, and then it's also an ecosystem that communicates between speakers and synchronizes everything. If you're able, it's also expensive as hell. Sonos is an expensive ecosystem to get into. If you can spend $150 and set up 5 different zones in your house using the Chromecast Audio, I think that is a tremendous ability to leverage your existing hardware in essentially make it all brand new again, which I think is really brilliant. It does puzzle me, and it's an irrational thing as a consumer that both the audio and the video version are the same price, because the video version does everything the audio does and the video, and it just feels weird to me that I almost would rather see the video be just $5 more expensive just to solve that.
I mean, it doesn't do the same things. It doesn't have a mini jack out. It has HDMI, so you can only use it with an HDMI system. It doesn't support multi-room sync, so there's a little bit of a different aspect there. This is optimized for audio. I guess those are the arguments, but I'm with you. It does seem odd that it's like, hey, I can do audio with this one if it's plugged into a TV, or if I have speakers, I can do this one, but this one's the same price as this one. And maybe it's just an inherent prejudice that we have that audio things should be cheaper than video because they only have audio and not video, and video has video and audio.
You know what? I almost wish it wasn't called a Chromecast, because Chromecast meant the ability to sling stuff. Like, I understand Chromecast being the format by which you transmit the audio, but I wish if they had called it, I'm not going to make up a name, but if they launched it as its own independent product, it could happen to be the same $35 price tag, and I don't think I'd have any beef with it. But by calling them both Chromecast and saying flavors, video and audio, and having them at the same price tag. It just it hotwires something in my brain, and it makes me not appreciate it on the level it should be.
It's not entirely rational, but I have it too, where it's just like, oh, but shouldn't it be different price?
Agreed.
Or it should be like more expensive. That would almost make more sense. Like, this is a high fidelity item. It's been tuned specifically to make amazing audio, right? More than the Chromecast video is good audio, but I don't know. We should talk a little bit about what Chromecast has besides just the new form factor. They also have something called Fast Play to reduce your uploading time by 80%. They've introduced the ability to do multiplayer gaming on it. They're adding a feed where you can get like Getty images or your Facebook photos or your Flickr photos up on your screen, which is kind of nifty. And they expanded it but they made it available in 17 countries. The biggest thing is 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, 802.11 AC, and as Brian mentioned, that adaptive antenna system where it's got antennas on both sides of the ring, and it will use whichever antenna is getting the strongest signal.
It sounds like by all accounts, this thing is, the gaming on it is zippy. And I believe the quote that one of the Google reps said was, nobody wants more controllers. And this is just, use your existing. And this is very, very Google. It's like, let's figure out a way. You're already holding a smartphone. Let that be your controller. You already have some speakers. Let that be your Sonos Zone. You already have a television. Just plug this tiny thing in. And for a very, very marginal cost, you get a massive upgrade to the quality of everything.
See, look, Brian, it's just an HDMI cable on the Chromecast, and then of course your power cord.
That's the part that gets left out.
Yeah, power cord is like twice as big as the actual Chromecast itself.
Wow.
All right, we actually have an embarrassment of gear riches because TiVo announced the new TiVo Bolt last week. It's on sale now at Best Buy and Amazon. Does 4K support, can handle cable card or over the air. So like the base model TiVo Romeo. In fact, it's meant to replace the Romeo and the mid level, the base and the mid-level Romeo models. It has quick mode, which allows you to play content back 30% faster with pitch adjustments, so you can speed through things. Like maybe you want to get through the news a little faster. Has skip mode, which lets you skip past commercial breaks on 20 channels on any of their programming from 4 p.m. to midnight. So it's a little like the Dish Hopper in that respect. Certain channels, certain day parts, but then it automatically skips the commercials for you. 500 gigabyte model costs $299. A terabyte model runs $399. Both models will give you a year of service for free, although after that first year, you got to pay $15 a month or $150 a year. TiVo Chief Marketing Officer Ira Bear on the company's forums responded to some TiVo enthusiasts who were saying, hey, wait a minute. This thing doesn't really seem to improve anything over my current Romeo. Yeah, okay, it's got 4K support, but we don't like this new bent form factor because they said for cooling and also just because it looks cool, they have this bent form factor instead of being straight, so it doesn't fit in people's racks. Anyway, Ira Barr said, we have a roadmap plan to bring you enthusiasts something you'll like way better in 2016.
I mean, is that's a curious statement to make to your biggest fans is, no, it's not for you. It's for those other losers who are just coming into the ecosystem. It seems to me like this could be a smart play if there is a target market of people who are buying up 4K TVs in droves and just really want content for 4K. They want they want that 4K stamp. I don't know how many people those are, and if they do exist, seems to me like they're the type who already have a TiVo and are those hardcore people that they just said, no, don't buy this. Something better is coming out next year.
Yeah, a lot of the things that they were promoting on the Bolt 2 had to do with Hulu and Netflix and all the apps that you can get on TiVo, but you can get on the Romeo. The one compelling feature for me was that this has the streaming built in, which the base model TiVo Romeo, even though it's called the Romeo, doesn't have built in. So I can't actually take my shows off of there and stream them. But all of that's coming to the TiVo Bolt. So I guess what I would think is if you're just getting into the game and you can't find one of those Brigadoon-like deals that sell you a TiVo Romeo with lifetime service, the Bolt is probably not a bad way to go. You get a year service for free. It's going to give you over-the-air or cable card flexibility, which the Romeo didn't give you. You basically had to choose between cable card and over-the-air. It gives you multiple tuners, which you only got 4 tuners on the original TiVo. Now you got more tuners. but it's not for somebody who already has a TiVo. And yet, as Brian's pointing out, it appeals to very few mainstream customers. What TiVo seems to be trying to say is, this is our product for the mainstream. You enthusiasts, we're going to get you something really cool. That's great. That all makes sense to me. But is this really appealing to the mainstream? You have to either be able to deal with over-the-air antennas, which cuts down the mainstream, or you have to be able to deal with cable card, which cuts down the mainstream, or you have to be into 4K TV, which cuts down the mainstream. So I agree with you, Brian. I'm not sure exactly who this appeals to be. And I'm certainly not going to replace my existing Romeo with this because I lose the lifetime service. And it's not giving me enough in exchange.
It seems like a middle step project. Or I don't know. I don't want to speculate on there. But
honestly,
too late.
Here's what I would do if I were TiVo. And granted, TiVo people, you know your business better than me. I'm just some stupid podcaster. But here's what I would do. I would put out Roku. I would put out, and you have the form factor already with the TiVo Stream. Put out a box and say, this one is a Roku. It's a little taller because it's got a DVR inside, and it has an over-the-air tuner in it, and it's basically like a really good streaming box that just happens to have a hard drive and over-the-air, and you will kill with that. That's the thing that the cord cutters will get really interested in. Everything that TiVo puts out is just a little bit too complex, a little bit too expensive because of that. And I think if they came out with a simpler Roku-inspired device that did over-the-air DVR, they would make a bigger splash. I could be totally wrong about that.
No, I everything you say makes sense, but my guess is something shareholders, something wouldn't surprise me. Hey, man, here's the question I want to know. I sure love Cordkillers, and I wish I could support people. I don't know if I want to do Patreon. I don't know that I'm ready to make that step yet. Is there some other way I could support Tom and Brian?
Yeah, well, there's always books. And if you've been listening to the show, you know Brian's got a book. The book is called Scam School Academy. And it's available at scamstuff.com. But did you know I have a book too, Brian?
You have a whole bunch of books, and we're talking a wide variety of tales, all the way from your dogs as detectives, streetwise cops, and then we also have the year in tech history, and of course your latest Citadel 32, available right now where finer books are sold. And you know what? If you want to give it a little preview, I just caught out of the corner of my eye. I saw one Bryce Castillo checking it out on archive.org. Was that something you agonized over about whether or not you wanted to share it there for free?
Nope. It was as simple as saying, the internet is an infinitely copyable medium, and what people pay for is the delivery mechanism. So I will provide it where they want, when they want, how they want.
So I'll tell you what, head on over right now to archive.org, type in Citadel 32, and you will be able to start reading Tom Merritt's, I was about to say audiobook. You read his book, Citadel 32, and you'll fall in love with it instantly, and you'll know you'll want a printed copy.
I'll be honest. Well, you want to print a copy because it's got that Scott Johnson cover art. I'll be honest. It's easier to find it if you go to tommerrittbooks.com and then click on the archive.org free link. And that's only because the archive.org search engine is prickly.
Okay.
It might work, but you'll definitely get like the direct link if you go to tommerrittbooks.com if you have a hard time finding it.
Yeah, but you're going to want that hard copy because when you're holed up in a bunker, you can have something to read when you are on the front lines.
Yeah, maybe you'll be on the front lines.
Front lines!
Hey, Tim Cook told BuzzFeed there will be an open API for Apple TV's search function in the forthcoming Apple TV so that it can expand beyond just the launching house. At launch, search is only going to work for iTunes, Netflix, Hulu, Showtime, and HBO, as we've mentioned before.
That is the biggest news to me because, again, this we speculated that hopefully Siri would become that concierge level service like I had said that I wanted, and it sounds like it's actually going to happen. I'm just going to be able to say, Siri, bring me Daredevil 2, Electric Boogaloo, and she'll be all like, how do you want it?
In fact, this could work too well to the point that Apple will have to solve a second problem, which is how do you display all of the different ways that people can get a show and which ones are free versus which ones you have to pay for.
Well, I could see Siri answering like, it's available on 7 services. You have these 3. Which one would you like to watch it on?
Well, they've already showed that. If you remember from the announcement, they showed that it will show the things that you have installed at the top.
Yeah.
And then it will say, here are other places that you don't have installed that it is also available on. And it will also show prices.
But you're talking about just to remove the extra steps on there. Hey man, YouTube Kids is now available on Chromecast and Apple TV. Also new curated playlists from the likes of National Geographic Kids and tools for parents that help you learn the app and tweak the password. I thought this was fascinating. I think the curated thing, it's weird because you see if you look right there in the middle, you see a curated playlist from Gina Davis with a bunch of empowering young ladies with it says awesome female characters for kids. I wouldn't have thought that's a cool feature until I just saw that, and I was like, you know what, that is cool. That is something I think I would buy into.
Yeah, I think it's great. And interestingly enough, YouTube, obviously a Google platform, and my wife works for YouTube, but available on the Apple TV. So they were able to strike a deal somehow. Those two could get along.
Yeah, well, look, everyone could get along. Calm down, people.
It's all in the back. It's all in the back rooms, right? You never know what actually is going on in these deals, and it's usually less emotional than people like to believe, right? Huffington Post, BuzzFeed, they like to blast headlines that make it sound like people are angry and fighting, and occasionally they are, but more often these meetings, and I've been in a few like this at CNET, they're very mundane. Like, well, that's just not something we can agree to right now, but let's circle back and look at this later, and it just looks worse than it is. So sometimes they get along.
Yeah.
On Virgin America flights now, Netflix is offering free in-flight Wi-Fi and access to the full Netflix catalog of movies. You just have to be on a plane that has Viasat Wi-Fi installed. That's the faster Wi-Fi. The promotion ends March 2nd of next year.
Yeah, that's supposed to be, 8 times faster than traditional in-flight Wi-Fi, although it's not necessarily downloading it from over the internet, right?
I want to confirm this so if anybody knows for sure, but Netflix has had a plan to install servers on planes so that Netflix could have its entire catalog replicated to the server, and it could keep updates coming through that fast Wi-Fi from time to time, but it wouldn't have to stream everything. You would actually be streaming it from a server on the plane instead of going over the internet to get
Yeah, and I think this is a smart move for Netflix in 2 ways. Number one, we've already seen it, I assume, be very successful because Dish has been providing television on Southwest Airlines flights, and they are, as somebody who flies Southwest Airlines, they make sure to always say, provided by Dish Networks. Dish is your friend. Do you like Dish programming? Then good, you get Dish programming.
And
you should thank
DirecTV does it on, I think, JetBlue and United. I think Dish does it on Delta too.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, so the mere fact that you are now associating, improved Wi-Fi 8 times faster brought to you by Netflix. So they're paying out of pocket, I assume, some amount in order to bring the experience up. But the real genius of all this is that it sells Netflix's narrative of why you don't need offline viewing, silly. The only reason you need offline viewing is when there's crappy Wi-Fi. And there's no crappy Wi-Fi here. We have 8 times faster Wi-Fi. You're going to be connected everywhere.
The only reason you need offline viewing, Brian, is because you're flying Delta.
Well, then that's dumb. You're dumb for flying Delta. You got to fly Virgin.
You should only ever fly Virgin America.
See?
Even though they don't fly everywhere.
Exactly. But regardless, and I've said this before, I think Netflix is correct in that eventually internet connectivity will be fast and ubiquitous anywhere you go 99% of your time. And so, yeah, I think it's smart for Netflix to build into that.
The question is March 3rd, after this offer is over, and you have to pay for the Wi-Fi, you have to pay extra for the Netflix?
I think the Netflix will be cheaper. I think it'll be $3 for all you can eat Netflix or $8 for Netflix plus outside internet or something like that.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right. You're right. That's the way to sell it is you say Wi-Fi is $8, but if you just want Netflix, it's $3. So you're hiding the fact that Netflix is charging separate.
Correct.
Because you will have to pay for it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Hey man, HBO Now, Showtime, and CBS All Access are all 3 available on Android TVs. The console also gets Disney Movies Anywhere Store, Epix, WWE, and UFC. That's a lot of letters. Congratulations to Android TV.
Coming to your Android TV console or your TV with Android TV built in to the TV. And now, what's under surveillance?
Like real estate, it's all about location.
Did you see that movie that came out this week about the guy who's stranded on a planet?
Yeah, it's called The Guy Stranded on the Planet, starring Mark Watney as the guy.
And it's like totally got all this paid placement of potatoes from the Idaho potato growing.
Oh, I mean, clearly they're just shilling for Idaho, no doubt about it. Yeah, man, quick bit of news that's not spoilery about it. The Martian just barely missed Gravity's $55.7 million all-time highest box office opening in the month of October, and it came in at $55 million. We'll talk about it in spoiler in time. Spoiler alert, I liked it, but we'll talk about more of the nuance
Spoiler
stuff.
alert, I liked it too. What else you been watching?
I watched The Shield after you called me excitedly, and you're like, Brian, oh my God, The Shield. And I was like, oh, did you watch it? You're like, oh, you don't remember which one? I was like, no. So I watched it, and then I promptly got distracted and didn't get a chance to geek out with you. So we'll talk about that in spoiler in time. I rewatched the first 2 episodes of Utopia with Bonnie, and it was too violent. She couldn't swallow that bitter pill. She was just like, too much blood. I can't handle it. And they're shooting kids and whatnot. But then, of course, we watched Rick and Morty finale last night. Bryce and I were geeking out over Twitter at some exciting moments that we'll discuss in spoiler in time.
Not okay.
I have been watching all of those as well, including The Martian. I've also continued to be watching Star Trek Voyager, and I'm enjoying my little trip back in time. I feel like it is underappreciated within that Star Trek realm. Some of the stories are right there with the Next Generation. I've been watching Clone Wars, watched the season premiere of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I really enjoyed. I think it's a strong start, and it's very much feeling like a Marvel Universe show. Maybe not for the first time, but in a season opener for sure. I also watched the Ferrell Takes the Field HBO show on HBO Now, where Will Ferrell played all 9 positions plus designated hitter during spring training in Arizona for 10 different teams all in one day. And we were a little skeptical. We just kind of put it on because we wanted something on while we waited for something else. It was funny. I mean, Will Ferrell's a funny guy, as you might expect, but it was really well done. So I recommend that. Probably if you're interested in baseball a little bit, you're going to enjoy it. If you're not interested in baseball at all, it might not be as funny. But just, really, really great thing. And it was done to raise money for a cancer charity.
Man, I totally flaked on the fact that the premiere of The Leftovers happened. Did you watch the entire thing, or?
Yeah. First of all, non-spoilery reaction, which is not sure whose student film the first 10 minutes were, but that was interesting. And then I got about halfway through and was bored enough that I noticed that Brian had tweeted he was watching Rick and Morty and realized, oh, WTF, why am I not watching Rick and Morty?
Oh, yeah.
So
I mean, first of all, that's not fair. Rick and Morty already has us by the short and curlies. And it's like, we'll do whatever Rick and Morty says.
I was going to watch Rick and Morty later, but then I saw that you hadn't watched The Leftovers, so I stopped.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll pick that up. We'll give it a fair review next week. But in the meantime, what's on the lookout, man?
Yeah, hey, this actually was this was a recommendation from one of our viewers, Jay. He sent this in. This is a new Amazon original drama that released, I want to say within the past 2 weeks, as Amazon is getting ready for their big launch of Man in the High Castle. Jay sent along Hand of God, which is a drama starring Ron Perlman, where he plays a judge who has a mental break after his son commits suicide, and believes he is seeing signs from God to lead him to the person who perpetrated a sexual assault against his daughter-in-law, which led to the suicide. It's a very dark concept. I watched the first 2 episodes, and I really liked the first episode. I think the first episode spends 59 minutes getting us to the right place, explaining everything, putting all the stakes on the table, and then I don't want to spoil it because part of it is the intrigue of what's happening.
Right.
But I was not a fan of how the very last minute of Hand of God.
Did you dislike it enough that you're not going to go back and revisit the rest?
I might give episode 3 a try. But it's at the point now where I think the premise isn't as interesting as it could be.
So wait, you watched episode 2?
Yeah, I watched episode 1 and 2.
Okay, and it's the last minute of episode 1 that bothered you.
No.
Yes.
Oh, really?
But then episode 2 didn't make it better.
Not really.
Okay.
You have a lot of characters who are trying to be badasses. You have a lot of people who want to be Walter White. and the balance isn't always right. I think there's an interesting drama here, and I think there could be an interesting mystery crime detective thing going on, but it's a weird sell. It's a weird sell on the premise. I would say give the first episode a shot all the way through and see if that's something you are into.
See, this is why you're on the lookout.
Yeah.
It's not just to always find the hit show. It's to be like, hey, here's the real scoop on this before you get in. I like that.
Yeah.
It's valuable.
I'm glad you like it.
And Brian, you know what else is valuable?
Dispatches from the front.
So true. So true.
Hey, first email that we got right here says, Dear Tom, it's October, which means our beloved Redbirds are once again in the hunt for World Series title. As a cord killer, I'd like to know the best way to see the action. It is a confusing process to know where to watch the team with or without cable. I have a Roku and am willing to pay to watch games. I don't believe MLB at Bat has playoff coverage. How are we going to watch, Tom? That's from Michael Great Dane.
Well, your best bet is Sling TV. Sling TV is going to have the ESPN and TBS games, which is a big majority of the division and championship series. If you want to watch the World Series and League Championship Series that aren't on TBS, then you're going to need Fox. Over the air is probably your only legal way to do that. So if you can get Fox over the air in your location, you're golden. Otherwise, you're going to have to get creative. And there's a couple of games that are on Fox Sports 1, which even some cable providers don't offer. In fact, when I had DirecTV, it was not on my tier. I didn't get Fox Sports 1, but you can get it on PlayStation View. Again, if you don't have PlayStation, then that might not work for you. But Sling TV is going to cover most of that stuff. And of course, if you happen to travel overseas and you do have access to MLB.tv, as long as you're outside of the United States, you can access all the playoff games on streaming MLB.tv that way.
Speaking of which, Sling TV, as I finally have gotten the app installed on all of the computers, I find myself watching more and more of Sling TV. It made it very, very easy to watch Rick and Morty last night. At first, I tried to go to a link that I think there was some article that said the finale of Rick and Morty was going to be streaming from the Adult Swim website, and I just was nervous about like, well, I don't want to miss it. I want to watch it live with everyone else. And in that moment, I was so glad that I had Sling TV and was able to experience it. You know, again, we talked about how there's this gestalt on Twitter when all of your tribe experiences the same thing at the same time, and it was really, really cool.
Andy from Michigan said, I like the idea of using virtual reality for virtual theaters. Be able to sit back on my comfy couch with nice headphones, get a real theater experience minus the seat kicking. Brian's comment about being able to look around the virtual theater and see shocked expressions of people around you reminded me of a Daily Tech News show story about software that can read your emotions. If down the road our VR gear is able to do that, then it would be possible to have our virtual avatar display the same look of surprise, shock, disgust, etc. that we're feeling as we watch the movies. This would be good for that community feeling if the theater is full of our friends, or even a selection of strangers that also happen to be watching the movie at the same time. It could also be useful for filmmakers and studios to see the data that is fed back so they can make better movies.
How funny that I had just described that experience over Twitter right before that letter. I didn't know that letter was coming up, but it just makes me think that you could look around the theater and not only do you see their shocked expressions, but you see their tweets popping up above their head, as if they're the whispers inside the Globe Theater at this dramatic moment, like, oh, I can't believe it.
Oh, and how awesome is that, right? Because there are times when somebody whispers something, it's hilarious, and you hear it, it's funny, and it adds to the experience,
Yep.
right? More often, it's annoying noises or people talking that you don't have interest in. But what if you can get to choose, right? Like, oh, I like that guy's comments. I'm going to leave his tweets on over his head. Plus, they're not audible. So you can choose to look at them or not to look at them.
Yep.
That's really intriguing to me.
Fascinating, man. Dude, so we, of course, got to thank our guest, even though he's not here. Did he give us anything to plug besides Pluto.tv?
Man, go to Pluto.tv. That's his lifeblood right now. If you're at all interested in seeing a good stream of stuff that you don't have to think about, right? You can just say, I know I'm in the mood for 80s TV. Let's see what's on. turn it on, go check out Pluto.tv. Again, like you said, it's on all the platforms. I watch it on Fire TV. That seems to be a really good way to watch it. On the web, you get more things because some of those licensing agreements won't let them put it on a set-top box, but they will let it put it on the web. So go check it out, Pluto.tv. Thanks again to Ilya Pozin for joining us today.
Heck yes. And of course, if you guys want to write us directly, it is cordkillers@gmail.com. Tell us all the things that you disagree with. We love those emails, especially when they start with Brian
or agree
is wrong.
with. You can tell us those things too. We're not saying you have to disagree with us.
Of
We're just
course.
saying we're open to your thoughts. We're live on DiamondClub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll see you next time.
Sorry Tom's audio sucked. Hey guys, Tom and Brian here. We just wanted to say thank you to all of our $5 patrons who keep us loud, live, and independent. You guys make Cordkillers the production that it is.
Your name appears in the video credits and appears in our hearts. And if you'd like to become one of them or see who they are, you can go to patreon.com/Cordkillers.
You'll need to do more than just go there, though. You'll have to sign up and, pledge an amount. But
Unless you just want to see who they are.
Well, I mean, you could gawk. That's a little creepy, isn't it?
If you want to be a gawker,
Let's go.
up to you.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.